Shekinah. Shekinah. I greet you with a Jewish spiritual greeting that should be part of our own spiritual lives. It's in Judaism in the Old Testament, and Judaism has its lived today among the people of Israel. It's a greeting that I think is extremely important. It was the way Jews described the presence of God in their midst. In one single word, Old Testament word, the presence of God is described. A little history. From the years 2000 BC to 1000 BC, the people of Israel were a non-literate people when it came to writing. They spoke their language, they had wonderful memories, they created their prayers, they built their history in their minds, etc., but they could neither read nor write. From about the year 1000 BC, they became literate people, and there was also a time of great spiritual growth. They began to write what we now call the Old Testament. But first it was spoken, memorized, and lived, and eventually put into writing. The word Shekinah, at the heart of Jerusalem, means that God is with us. Shekinah. Jews greet each other with this. When I was growing up, I had a fellow who was a good friend of my mother, and it was there when I was going off to school. We went down and bought clothes, and he greeted my mother with the words, Shekinah. I asked Mom, what is he doing? And she's saying, he's given us a Jewish greeting that Jesus used. What a blessing, Shekinah, to all of you. God's constant presence in the Old Testament in Shekinah. The translation is, God is. No other words are necessary. The word to be, God is, describes the word Shekinah. In the Old Testament, the Jews experienced God's Shekinah by his constant presence. When you get to look at the Old Testament in sacred scripture, that while Shekinah was used while the Jews traveled in the desert by day, the heated desert of the Near East, this was God's presence symbolized by a cloud over them, keeping them cool from the desert heat. Shekinah was again explained at nighttime by the light from the sky that gave them direction where God wanted them to go. This was done for 40 years in the desert, 40 being the life expectancy of 2 generations of Jewish people. Presence of God in each and all persons. God is there. God is Shekinah. And in Judaism, all events are considered sacred. They speak of the presence of God. God is present in religious events, in one's family, in your personal name. Names are given based on a religious basis. The book of Psalms is a book of Shekinah. It's to be praised, memorized, sung, instruments played with it. It is God's world, God's people. God is in all, and so he is in each of us. The Jewish greeting, even today, among Jews is Shekinah, as well as Shalom and other greetings that have strong religious roots. I'd like to deal with Shekinah in a modern world. It's called the breastplate of St. Patrick. Whether St. Patrick wrote it or not, I'm not sure, but it's a great prayer I heard many times, and I was reminded of it a week or so ago by a very good friend of mine who shared with me the breastplate of St. Patrick, which you might call very easy a Christian Shekinah. I read parts of it because I don't know the whole prayer, but it goes like this. Christ be with me, Christ before me, Christ in me, Christ under me, Christ over me, Christ behind me, Christ above me. Cry with Christ with me. Cry in the all who see me, in the mouths of all who speak to me. Christ in the heart of all who know me. Christ in all. And there are many more phrases to add to that. But think of that as Christian Shekinah, the presence of Christ in every human being. What a difference it might make if we lived that with each other. Thanks be to God, and to all of you, Shekinah.